I never get tired of that song. Welcome, Low Ego Action Heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. We're a full service CX and UX agency, and today it's our usual short Friday stream, hopefully running just about 20 minutes, to take a look at some crazy stuff that you have sent in, or some good stuff, and to just react to it. So it's a hodgepodge of stuff. If you would like to send in stuff, you can send it to deltacx.link/reaction. I'll get it on the list. There is a list. So right now I'm cleaning up some old stuff on the list. And next week, newer stuff. We do this every Friday. So let's take a look at stuff. All right, let's get my screens ready. I've got dogs ready and gongs ready. I think we're ready. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen. And I will start the 2-minute countdown timer and react to this Reddit I received that says, when recruiters refuse to give but want to jump on a call, give info but want to jump on a call. Do you have a full job description? Can you share the client name or salary range? I would like to schedule a phone call with you. Are you available to talk? Can you answer my questions? I don't want to waste my time. Hi, Paul. How have you been? I have spring allergies. Sorry about the sniffling. Yeah, I'm not sure what there is for me to react to here. This is totally real and true and happens too many times each day. I think that it is perfectly fine to tell a recruiter you do not want to talk to them if they're not going to give you any of the basics, at least some of the job description. Sometimes they don't tell you the salary right away, which I disagree with, but at least see the job description and see if it makes sense to you. I got a message in my LinkedIn yesterday saying they wanted a UX designer with at least 5 years of experience. So that was the first red flag, because 5 years should be senior. So this was mid-level, which means it was coming with mid-level pay. I saw that coming. And then it said stuff like, must be able to generate ideas based on ambiguous briefs. And my thought was, okay, so you want me to guess? There isn't going to be any research. We're just going to guess at stuff. And then it said it paid $60 an hour. And my thought was, that's what I got paid like 9 years ago. So no, this isn't for me. And obviously some people might take it because A, it's better than nothing, or B, it's a famous company name. But ultimately, I'm not taking that, and I'm definitely worried about what's going to be in your portfolio when you are just guessing at ambiguous briefs. So I don't like that. So yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to not want to talk to a recruiter. I say things like this to them all the time. I say, gong, time's up. Please just at least answer a couple of questions so I'm not wasting your time or mine. And if they won't, conversation over. All right, next, let's start the countdown. So this is a week or so ago, so I am clearing out some old stuff here. This was a post from Vivian Castillo, and it says, Psst, inspiring UX and tech folks with the ideals of being human-centered and empathetic without preparing them to navigate capitalistic environments that are hostile to equity and inclusivity and known to exploit their employees and customers is both irresponsible and harmful as fuck. Pass it on. What can you not react to here? I was very lucky to be actually a research participant for Vivian just over a year ago. So I met her, and she probably doesn't remember that because I was the participant, and she's just fantastic in pretty much every possible way from the little I've known of her and certainly some things I've read. I can't really disagree here. I think there's so many things that we need to prepare people for, and there's so many conversations we need to have. There's so many things we need to bring into our highest level strategies: true customer centricity, true ethics. And if we're going to be diverse, equal, inclusive, and things like that, then yeah, you can't do a lot of these things. You can't pay people different amounts. Everybody should technically be paid the same if you want equality. There's so many things that are going wrong in companies, and I'm glad that Vivian and others are using their voices about this. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. I'm so sorry. So I don't know what there is for me to react to here. I've barely seen anything I can't think of anything she's ever said that I've disagreed with. So, so follow her. And, I think I think I follow her, but we're not connected. So yes, but and then the question is, what do we do about this? This person is correct, but then what do we do about this? And that's the part I'm not sure about, but I hope smart people like her will figure that out on the strategic level and find ways to get it into companies. Okay, next was a really long article someone sent, and I do not want to give them cookies. It was the time I tried to ruin Halo 2. A former Microsoft user researcher writes about how you can't always trust the data in front of you. Now, I did skim this before the show, otherwise I'd be like, what's going on here? But basically, it sounds like there was some possibly flawed research, and it sounds like there was maybe some weirdness in how this person interpreted the research. So here's what they're saying. The participants' make was one of effective forecasting. So they asked people, how would you feel if Xbox did this? And everyone was like, I hate it. And then it seems like these people said, well, then we shouldn't do it. Our internal recommendation was we shouldn't do it. So number one, they tried to ask people how they would feel about in the future. And most of you, if you follow this channel, you know we never ask that in CX and UX. Marketing likes to ask that. We don't ask, would you buy it? Would you use it? Would you tell mom about it? Things like that. And let's see if they say what their second problem is. Okay. I'm skimming for it. Does anybody see it? Well, this is interesting. Someone said no possible set of results from this study would have convinced them to change course. So then that also brings up the question of what were you researching? If you were researching, are people likely to like this new feature? First of all, that sounds like marketing. Second of all, what's the point if people were unwilling to change their minds? I would have just saved time and money and probably not bothered. Oh, I guess they're saying maybe they didn't write it up very well. Anyway, it's a weird article, probably worth skimming, but I don't think you're going to get anything new out of it if you've been following this channel. You already know that we shouldn't ask flawed questions. We shouldn't ask questions that ask people to predict the future or what their own behavior might be in the future. There you go. Don't do it. So this one was sent today. And I just had to add it in, and it's a screenshot from I don't know what, but someone sent it to me, and it was I think it was portfolio advice for people in UX. Hey Wilson, and the advice says, show raw artifacts from the process, enough to give hiring managers insight into your conceptual IA and interaction design work. Okay, I agree with that. Yes, your portfolio should definitely tell your story and show some of your artifacts, assuming they're not confidential. Then what's on the screen continues to say, UX-focused recruiter Sean Pook, who I don't know, so I have no opinion about him, once told me that he advises designers to put some pictures of Post-its into their portfolios. Wireframes, flow diagrams, and colorful clusters of sticky notes do in fact make it clear to me at a glance that you do a range of UX work. Well, obviously, that one gets 1 dog out of 5 because while I think this advice started off well, it sounds like by the end of this advice, it's, just put some pictures in here of sticky notes and, I don't use sticky notes. I guess I could put a screenshot of Mural or Miro, but I don't think that looking at sticky notes explains to me the range of UX work that someone is capable of. It certainly doesn't tell me that much about how you planned your research. There's only so much sticky notes can tell someone. And I've started recognizing in some of the portfolios I've seen, stock photos of sticky notes and people standing in front of walls of sticky notes. Stock photos! it's not even you. So I think that we've gone a little bit too far in this dress up your portfolio with this stuff you think people are going to like, because to me, I think it's a potential downside. Larry says, by the way, I know Sean. He knows UX pretty well and tends to offer good advice. That is excellent to hear. I would like to trust him. I do think this advice is a little bit strange. I would probably say to people, put pictures of Post-its if your UX process included Post-its or a virtual note board, but don't feel like you have to put in a wall of Post-its if your UX process did not happen to include that. And certainly my advice would be, don't put in stock photos of Post-its or of other people in front of Post-its, because that to me seems a little dishonest. So that's my take on that. I'll end up giving him 3 dogs out of 5 because I think we can polish this up a little bit and find the good in it. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Paul says, would you put sticky notes on my medical chart to show your range of doctoring? Maybe not. So here's one that I got some weeks ago. You can see it's dated April 4th. It's a Nielsen Norman Group article that says, UXers and product managers say each other is intruding on their work and that there is overlap between UX and product management. This seems to be some sort of semi-scientific study that tries to examine where UX and PM thought their jobs were overlapping. And if you take a close look at this, you will find that I think there were some charts or things that said that product managers thought that they were supposed to do wireframes, and there's so again, you can read this and decide for yourself. I'm not sure I can necessarily have a reaction to this. The reaction is we have to do a better job figuring out how UX and product management can work together and collaborate without overlapping. My suggestion is always product charters and team charters so that we understand what each other is doing. Larry says, by adding those photos, it opens up a conversation about those processes. Yes, and only include them if you really did them. That's all I'm saying there. Sylvia says, I have this article saved to be read. Yes, I did skim it when it came out, but I walked away feeling like, what do I do about that? And I think that's a downside to some of the articles I see from NNG, is sometimes it's like, here's a thing, we studied a thing and we found a thing, but what do we do about it? Larry says, I agree with the premise of NNG on that, but having certified as a product manager, I can say the overlap doesn't need to be confrontational. That's another good point. But again, ultimately, while there sometimes is overlap for good or bad reasons, I wasn't too sure what to do about that. They're saying clearly define people's responsibilities. Okay, but they're not saying what those potentially should be, and that might be helpful to people. So I agree with Larry that there's ways to manage potential overlap. And again, product charters and team charters are supposed to handle this stuff. So knowing that we're trying to keep these streams short, I've got one more for today, and it is quite old. Someone sent it to me, and I didn't take this screenshot. Someone sent it to me. Hi, Serena. Ciao, Serena. Serena, I should say. I'm so bad for names. So it doesn't seem to be a stream without something from Joe Natoli. So let's start the countdown. Now, this one is old. The person said they screenshot this a long time ago, but let's read it out loud. We're going to put on our critical thinking hats, and we're going to dissect what's going on here. And this says 1 hour ago, this one was screenshot, but this is evidently quite old. And it says, I just read a post by someone who essentially says developers should stay in their lane when it comes to UX. Now, my initial reaction is, yeah, they should. Developers don't want us coding for the most part, and we don't want them UXing. So far I'm happy with this. What's he going to say? That developers don't need to concern themselves with matters and components of user experience. Yeah, for the most part, they don't need to concern themselves. We are going to collaborate with them. I do show them my work as I go, and I make sure that it is feasible and can be built, and you check with them. And so I'm collaborating with them as we go, but they don't necessarily have to concern themselves with matters of, and certainly not components. That's getting granular. And Joe continues, while I've debated whether or not I wanted to say anything about this, I feel like I have to. Well, that's just drama. And what I want to say is stop this. It's nothing more than a self-serving ego trip. It's arrogant, it's antagonistic, and it's exclusionary. So, that's a little bit tough for me. I wouldn't agree here. I think that by Joe's logic, then everybody gets to work in everybody's everything. It's design by committee, it's decision by committee, and what do we really need UX for? If developers don't have to stay in their lane and we don't have to stay in our lanes, well, why are we saying that's a self-serving ego trip that's arrogant, antagonistic, and exclusionary? I think you can't believe in autonomy for UX and the ability for specialists to do their own jobs and agree with him. And I have so many of you who write me privately and say, oh my gosh, developers are trying to take over my job and nobody's stopping them. And, is Joe going to tell this person, stop being so egotistical, arrogant, antagonistic, and exclusionary? But let's read the rest of what Joe wrote. And it's flat out incorrect. If you care about positive outcomes and good UX, meaning you really care about people, then what you want is collaboration, shared understanding, people working in concert with the same goals. And there's no way that happens without the insight and effort and talent of the developers, programmers, and architects you work with. In a software-focused world, you need those people more than they need you. In fact, without them, you don't have a job or purpose. The only thing this us versus them, I assume there was a swear word here that this person decided to block out, probably shit or bullshit, accomplishes is making it harder and more stressful and painful for everyone involved to produce things that matter, that help, that provide value and understanding and usefulness. So I think the problem here is that, for starters, I don't agree with Joe. And I think with critical thinking hat on, it's hard to agree with him because it seems like he's giving a message of design by committee, everything by committee. You have to do everything with everybody. As I say in one of my early episodes, so go to the live stream podcasts playlist and look for collaboration versus design by committee versus democratization. There are definitely ways to work with people, collaborate with people, have shared understandings, move towards same goals, without making people swim in each other's lanes. And yes, we collaborate with people to have their insights and efforts and talents. I agree with this in that I don't want people siloed, but I disagree with this in that, first of all, I don't believe we need the inflammatory language of telling you that if you want developers to stay out of your shit, you're on an ego trip, and you're arrogant and you're antagonistic and you're exclusionary. This is like the same gatekeeping argument we keep hearing. I mean, if Joe wants no gates, then everybody's doing everybody's jobs. I'm going to start doing developing and coding, and developers are going to do UX, and product managers will make wireframes, and business analysts will interview users, right? Because if we don't want that, if we want them to stay in their lanes, we must be ego heads. So we need those people, but I wouldn't say more than they need us. I think we all need each other equally. And without them, we don't have a purpose. I think that's unfair because our purpose is the users. Our purpose is the users and the customers. Our purpose is not to serve developers and other people and be their sidekicks and henchmen and assistants. So I would have to, in general, I partially agree with what he's saying, but the core of what he's saying is give up your power, let everybody do everything, and don't tell developers to stay in their lanes. I will absolutely tell developers to stay in their lanes because they waste no minutes telling me to stay in mine. Developers are not going to let me deploy a Kubernetes cluster. Developers are not going to invite me to brainstorm the backend architecture. Developers are not going to have me code to production. Developers are very happy to tell me to stay in my lane, but that doesn't mean we're not collaborating, and that doesn't mean there is an us versus them culture. So we need to be looking at our culture, and we need to be looking at our processes, and we need to be looking at how we can create connections and collaborations without design by committee, decision by committee, workshop by committee, and fake democratization. Sylvia says, I disagree too. I've been in the situation of being put aside in an engineering heavy company and it serves no one. Collaboration is good, but so are boundaries. I agree. Paul Edwards says, look, landing an F-18 includes a lot of people and a pilot listens to them, but one person lands a plane on an aircraft carrier. Thank you, Paul. Wilson says, it's like the human body. Every organ needs to work together, otherwise it won't function. Imagine your lungs started to pump blood instead. Right. So we keep having Joe being a recurring guest on the reaction stream because people are sending stuff. And if there's something you see Joe say that you'd like me to react to, that's fine. You can send in what Darren says. You can send in what Dr. Nick says. You can send in what anybody says. I'm happy to react to these things. I think, once again, with Joe, there's micro pieces in here that are good messages, but it's so enshrouded in such inflammatory accusatory language, because I don't want to tone police them. He's allowed to be passionate. He's allowed to be even angry if he wants to be. I'm absolutely fine with his tone. It's more the accusations. I think there's a way to be passionate and blunt and bold without telling people they're having a self-serving ego trip that's arrogant, antagonistic, and exclusionary. Because if he's saying that to us, then I want to know if he's saying that to the product managers that leave us out. How about the developers who leave us out? Is he telling them the same thing? Inquiring minds want to know. So hypothetically, that would end this reaction stream. Since I am trying to keep them down to about 20 minutes, they always seem to end up 24 somehow. But I'm trying to keep them quick. So if you would like to send something in to be reacted to in the future, of course, no charge, though tips are gladly accepted, deltacx.link/reaction. And feel free to tell me why. If there's something, sometimes I'm like, why did someone send me this? Feel free to write a little blurb if you want to. I won't necessarily read that blurb on the air, but you'll help me out with like, what did you think I was looking at here? So deltacx.link/reaction. We do this every Friday. I will be here next Friday. But remember, the days are counting down for you to be able to register for the Concentric Conference. The conference is next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if you are watching this in the next few days. And it's deltacx.com/concentric. It is completely free, but I am closing registration late on Monday night, California time, because I don't want to be caught later with people trying to book mentoring times and other things and not knowing what's going on. So, registration ends Monday night. You are welcome to book one free mentoring session in your registration. Please do not register more than once. Wilson says, can't wait. Me too. We're still getting a couple of more speakers and things cleared up on the page, but we've got everything pretty nailed down finally. And Kayleen says, very excited. Me too. We're going to have the most of it, some of it's going to be in AirMeet, like the networking and the roundtables and the mentoring. And then we're all going to move to Zoom webinar for the actual sessions. And I am hiring 3 live transcriptionists who will be live typing everything for people who require transcriptions and know that auto captions are yucky. Serena says, in my short career, I saw already too many products developed without UX considerations to agree to the statement that UX needs devs more than vice versa. Only with collaboration, the whole thing works. Right. I absolutely love collaboration. I don't like that we're siloed, but I also don't like to take collaboration so far that it becomes design by committee or decision by committee or other by committee evils. So that's pretty much it for today. There will be a stream on Monday, but then there won't be office hours next week because of Concentric. But I will be here on Monday, and I will be reading or voice acting my new Medium article about about UX and evangelism, undoing what's undoing UX. And I'll be reading that out loud so I can take questions and comments as I go. So we'll be watching the chat room as I read that, as we did last week. So hopefully everybody will have a good weekend and be warm and safe and healthy. And I guess I'll just play us out of here. And I think I have to hit this button maybe. And right? Am I hitting the wrong buttons today? What happens if I hit this button? Oh, that would be bad. Okay, so hit the right buttons, and I will see everybody hopefully Monday. If you need anything from me before Monday, I'm working all weekend. I'll see you in Slack when I'm awake, deltacx.link/join Slack. And I'm also happy to say we have passed 2,000 subscribers on the channel, which is really exciting because it's completely organic. I haven't paid for any of them or run some sort of big contest or reposted other people's stuff to get attention. So so don't forget, that means June 1st will be office hours Ask Me Anything with special guest Deb's boyfriend for the comedy. So have a super weekend. See you in Slack, and see you all very soon. Keep sending reaction stuff. Bye.
Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation